All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is another episode of NFL Hot Route Takes. I am Chase Owens, your host, with my fellow co-host Brian Sarver and Christian Mills. We are past the NFL Week 13 point. We just got out our NFL Week 14 previews ready for you guys on Thursday morning, and this is a Friday morning takes episode that we have split up, as you guys know if you've been following along, into two shorter episodes for you guys. And with this one, we've got a lot of good things to get to. I think each of us has a pretty spicy take that we can all debate with. And I'm going to lead us off. Obviously, we just come off the Thanksgiving week football with a great NFC matchup between the San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles that ended up being a little more one-sided than all of us expected. San Francisco with a dominant road win to move them to 9-3. After watching that game, I know we talked in our recap episode how it was a little more closely contested than the final score would indicate, but the dominance of the San Francisco ground game, I've hyped up Christian McCaffrey as my offensive player of the year preseason. That was my pick, and nothing that he has done this year has kind of steered me away from that. And Brock Purdy's efficiency in the red zone really just put the stamp on me that sealed San Francisco as the best team. I know it's one game, but for my money, San Francisco 49ers are the best team in football, NFC or AFC. I know they don't have the best record, but that's my take. I want to hear if each of you guys have them at the top. If not, who is your top team? Is it Philadelphia, who's still quite the roster and quite the team, have the better record? There's a lot of other teams in the AFC that you could argue that way as well. So I'll let either of you guys take it. Are you agreeing with me that San Francisco is the best team, or you got someone else?
Go ahead, Christian. You go ahead, man.
What? You want me to go ahead?
Yeah, man. I hear what you got to say.
Man, I do want to lean the 49ers, but the 3 weeks that they kind of just dropped the ball and didn't look that good. But I will say, like I said in the last pod, the Eagles playing, 13 days in a row, 3 games, that kind of does hurt. I mean, to me, that win over them. But as of right now, I'm going to lean the 49ers because, I think the big thing that people don't talk about is Debo. He came back 100% that game, and it just seems like when Debo's healthy, Chris McCaffrey gets a lot of the love, but I just think when Debo's healthy, the offense looks completely different. It's better. It gets more yards. It's easier, it seems, for them to get going. It takes a lot off of Christian McCaffrey's plate, so I just think, we talked about the Eagles' pass rush in the past and how dominant they were, and I think this 49ers team, Jalen Hurts was running all night, trying to get away from them. So I think just their defense is, maybe one of the best defenses in the league. Yes, it's looked rough, but I think if they really go in with a great game plan like they did against the Eagles, I don't see how a team could really say they're not the best right now or anybody can really argue it. They're on a 4-game win streak now, 4-1 at home and 5-2 away. So, I just think right now the 49ers are just the best team as a whole unit. Both sides of the ball, coaching staff, as long as Brock Purdy he ain't done it this year, but knock on wood, put the ball in danger, I think they're easily the best team.
All right. I think that they're definitely at least in contention. I don't think they're head and shoulders better than Philadelphia. I don't. I do think that if they played again, it may be a closer game. Philly might win that game. I think it can really go either way. But I do want to introduce a new team into the discussion, and that is the Miami Dolphins. Say what you will. Say what you will. I might be biased. So we have one of the best defenses in the NFL with the best offense, for my money, in the NFL. I think the only other offense that are in the discussion is the 49ers offense. And the other only defense, well, I'm not going to go there. I think there's a few defenses that are in discussion. I think Baltimore, yes. The 49ers have a defense in that discussion. But, man, I don't think Miami's defense is getting enough love. Of course, it has not performed against the top teams, but they hadn't been healthy against the top teams. And Jalen Ramsey hadn't played against the top teams. And I'm going to tell you right now, he did play against Kansas City, and we held them to 250 yards offense and 14 points of offense. We played well in that game. The story was the offense just not able to execute. We've seen the offense; they can execute. We'll see what it looks like when there's bad weather against a good team. Yeah, I've heard it all regarding that, but I definitely think that Miami's resume speaks that we should be included in this conversation. And I think it's upward trajectory for Miami.
Okay.
We're going to continue to get better.
Let me cut you off, Brian, because
Go ahead.
I don't want it to steer towards teams in the conversation, because if I wanted to go teams in the conversation, I would have said, oh, I love my Ravens and what they offer. I love your Dolphins. I love the Jacksonville Jaguars. I love the Eagles. I want one for your money. We're past Thanksgiving. Who's the best team? Is it San Francisco or is it your Dolphins? Who you take?
Don't do it. Don't you dare.
I'm gonna go Miami, bro. I think I am
Jesus.
until I see otherwise, and
Yeah.
that may be biased, bro. It may be. I can't. I'm not gonna lie to you here, but I think that we're right there, if not. And I'm not going to sit here and if I'm splitting hairs and needles trying to pick a team, I'm going to go with my team.
Yeah.
So,
well, both teams sit at 9-3, and as you kind of alluded to, there are two of a handful of teams in the conversation. I just kind of wanted us, since we're past Thanksgiving, we're well past the halfway mark. We've got a glimpse and a good rundown of what we think and what we know about all the top teams. And I just wanted to hear each of us plant our flag and who we thought was the best. Me and Christian's rocking with San Fran. You're rocking with Miami. So I don't think you're going to get a lot of argument from other NFL fans either way, because they're obviously both in the conversation. Christian, I know pre-pod you said you had another take about San Francisco. I don't know if I stole yours there, if you have another direction you want to go with them. What you got for us here?
All right, man. It deals with Miami, so it's both of the teams we just hit on. But I think Tua is more of a product of the system than Brock Purdy is. The Tua before the new head coach got there, he was struggling till Tyreek Hill got there. The run game wasn't that great until the system changed and got better. Tua all of a sudden got better. But I think Brock Purdy, if we've seen him come in day one, maybe it's the system, but I think just Brock Purdy, day one coming in versus Tua day one coming in has shown me a lot more than what I've got out of Tua till this point. I just think you could argue that maybe Tua is more of a system quarterback than people would like to say.
Are you claiming that the system is in both places, like Miami and San Francisco, or like there's
there's definitely a system in both
Miami.
places. But I think if you had to pick one, I would say Tua is more of the system guy than Brock Purdy would have to be.
Okay. I know, Brian,
go ahead. You do you, and then I'll do me.
Yeah, you want to go on a tangent, Brian, and I know that. So I'm going to quickly get in my thoughts. Both of those teams, for my money, I think they have the two best offensive masterminds in football scheming things up in Kyle Shanahan and Mike McDaniel. And I think Miami has the better playmakers and wide receiver, although Ayuk and Debo are great receivers. Tyreek Hill is the best receiver, with Justin Jefferson being hurt for me, and Waddle's no slouch himself. So when you're leaning on which guy's making things happen himself, whereas which guy's leaning more on staying what he's hearing in his ear, and it's the system itself guiding him in the right direction, I actually lean towards Purdy. Just Tua has shown enough in previous instances at Alabama, dating back to college, to where when you got playmakers around him, and that's what Miami just had to do. They just had to get him a playmaker and a better line, and that was the difference for me to make Tua into what he is right now, not Mike McDaniel coming in and scheming things up. I think that's a great benefit. Obviously, I respect his offensive mastermind and everything he's done there. But when you get to Brock Purdy and his limitations being the last guy drafted, I think that he wasn't doing that at Iowa State. It has to be there in structure for him to make things happen. Whereas Tua, I've seen him win a national championship with Devontae Smith and just make plays that I don't necessarily think are Mike McDaniel in his ear telling him that this is where the ball needs to go and this, that, and the other. I think McDaniel just knows what Tua's good at, and he just complements it and makes it part of the offense. Whereas I see it a little differently in San Francisco. So I would disagree with you there, Christian. I think it's a great question because both guys benefit from great offensive masterminds, but I lean more Brock Purdy being the benefiter than Tua. So, Brian, I think you're going to steer the same way and go off on a little tangent here. So I'll let you defend your guy here.
I wanted to start off by saying that Tua's first 2 years were like they deserve context is the thing I would say. Basically what Tua was working with is if you transplanted Tua and put him in New England right now, like right now.
Yeah,
that was what Tua was working with. And you see what Mac Jones is doing. He's throwing picks. He's turning the ball over. Miami's offensive line was worse than that. They had a guy that's never coached offense before as their offensive coordinator. And he had DeMonte Parker and Mike Gesicki, not even Juju. We had Lynn Bowden Jr., Isaiah Ford, Mac Hollins, Myles Gaskin as lead back, and his offensive line had the worst numbers that have been tracked since PFF started tracking offensive line, and that's probably the most credible stat you can have when it comes to tracking offensive line play. So Tua, I think, has a couple strengths that Purdy doesn't have. One, Tua is a more how do I want to phrase this? He's got a more complete overall package. He has quicker feet. He can maneuver around in the pocket better. He has a stronger base. He has more velocity on his passes, can throw the deep ball better, can throw deep outs better. He has more accuracy between the numbers. The touch he's able to put on throws 10 to 20 yards. It's really next to none. No one else is doing it like Tua is. And then he gets the ball out faster than anyone else, which mitigates bad O-line play, which is what I'm saying here. He made what's going on in New England work. Like that, he made that work with an RPO system. And people say, oh, Tyreek Hill, Mike McDaniel. I don't think it has to be Tyreek Hill or Mike McDaniel, but why wouldn't it be Tyreek Hill, Mike McDaniel if you can go get them? Tua can make an offense work. You just need to be competent around him. And the whole thing I'm saying is it was not competent. It was not just not good. It was terrible. And Tua was putting up positive numbers. And so they bring in Tyreek Hill, they bring in McDaniel, and they build this offense around Tua to bring out his strengths. And people want to say, he's a system quarterback. Oh, it's not Tua, it's the system. Well, the system was specifically built for Tua, and it's not the same system Purdy's running. It's if you took San Francisco's offense, you sprinkled some RPOs in there, and you said, okay, instead of targeting 8 to 12 yards down the field in the middle of the field, we're going to target 15 to 20 yards down the field, get the ball out faster than anyone else, and go get the fastest receivers in the NFL and get there faster than anyone else. And so it's a perfect marriage of skill from your quarterback position, speed from the receiver position, and scheming things up from the head coach position. And that's why you're seeing, frankly, record-breaking numbers. So I think Purdy's a good quarterback. I'm not trying to sit here and say that he's not, but I think he's actually lifted up and elevated more from the system than Tua is because he's running a system plenty of quarterbacks have ran. The one in Miami is a one-of-one system. No one else is running that. Who else is running these crossers in the middle of the field with all the motion and everything, every single play? Nobody. So I think Tua offers you a whole lot more. There's a reason why he was the number 5 pick and not the last pick in the draft. I'll say that as well. You know, the all-time leading passer rating in college football history, Tua Tagovailoa. So I would say put some respect on my guy's name, man. He's not Brock Purdy.
Listen, I heard you rant, man, but listen, this is my last little thing that I can say about the 49ers. You're saying that Brock Purdy doesn't help the system, and this is where I have to say you're wrong. I think Brock Purdy makes the system way better. I mean, we've seen – here go a couple names that, the system is so great that it makes Brock Purdy not look that good. It's an easy system. We have Nick Mullins, C.J. Beathard, Jimmy G, and then you had Trey Lance. And then, we've seen Sam Darnold there, couldn't understand it. And then Brock Purdy is the only guy I can say from when Kyle Shanahan has actually been there that actually got the system and ran with it. All these other guys has been I mean, high draft picks and Trey Lance, but a Jimmy G that's a veteran that's supposed to be very good at this system. And we've seen even he messed up in moments, which Brock Purdy really hasn't shown us to me at all at this point. So I just think, to me, Brock Purdy makes this system really, I mean, if Kyle Shanahan could really, I think, honestly pick any quarterback, I can say any quarterback in the league, but from maybe 10 down, he's going to go with his guy, I think. In all honesty, I think Brock Purdy makes this system a lot better than a lot of other guys around the league could make it.
You did say 10 down, so that wouldn't have been Tua.
Now, Tua ain't top 10.
Shit.
Oh no.
Tua ain't top 10.
MVP candidate, not top 10, bro.
He ain't MVP candidate. Tyreek Hill's the MVP candidate.
Tyreek Hill is.
I'd give you that, Christian. Brock Purdy has ran this San Francisco offense, the Kyle Shanahan San Francisco offense, better than any other quarterback that's had the opportunity so far. And where I boil down, I think where me and Brian boil down to, you take away both of these great head coaches and you take these two quarterbacks and dump them in a middle of the road offensive mastermind system. Tua's got more capability and more talent like in his body than Brock Purdy. And Brock Purdy's a good quarterback.
I don't know,
he makes
man.
things happen.
I think y'all was sleeping on Brock Purdy, man.
I think he.
I think
I
on
really
Tua.
came around on Brock Purdy, man. I think if Brock Purdy would have played, at an Alabama or at a Clemson or one of these powerhouses team of Michigan, he would have been more of a household name. But because where he went in college, it's kind of just the cards he got dealt.
Brock Purdy would have took Jalen Hurts' job, bro.
Jalen Hurts would have
No.
came back in and won the national championship.
Tua
No,
took that man's
because Brock
job,
Purdy
bro.
wouldn't have got hurt.
Like, Tua's a
I hear
dog,
you, bro,
Christian.
but-
You're not putting respect on his name, bro. He is
I
a
hear
dog.
you, bro. I'm just saying, I guess like you said, Brian, the two I seen, and year 1, 2, if he was so elite with the weapons he had, he would have showed it then.
He didn't have weapons. Look at New England.
I hear you, but
He
there's
got
been
his
multiple
weapons.
teams that had quarterback. Josh Allen, when he first got to Buffalo, there wasn't nothing there.
Let me
And he
put
was
it this way
still
too.
getting talked in of being great, elite. Josh Allen is one of those guys. Joe Burrow, he had T. Higgins, and then Jamar Chase came afterwards his first year. But we seen how great Joe Burrow was his first year. And Cincinnati had the what pick, Brian?
Joe
when
Burrow
they
wasn't
picked Joe
that
Burrow?
great. I think they went 4-12, Christian. The Bengals that year.
Yeah,
And he got hurt.
were bad,
He got hurt.
but
We got for the season.
he got hurt. Yeah.
Yeah, Tua's been doing that too, year 1 and 2.
The worst offensive line since PFF started tracking it.
I hear you,
And-
man.
And the scheme, bro. The guy never coached offense. And Brian Flores was actively trying to trade for Deshaun Watson. The owner was not about it. I mean, they were trying to sabotage this man, like legitimately.
Interesting debate there, guys. I mean, QB play in the NFL, as I always talked about in abundance on this pod, with three guys who are very talented. We feel different levels about each of them, all three of us. But I don't think it's a stretch to say that Tua's established himself these last couple of years as one of the better ones. And I'll give you Brock Purdy as well, Christian. That's why I said in my take that I think San Francisco is the best team in the NFL. It's because of what Brock Purdy's done in this system and where he's elevated the offense. 42 points against a very good Eagles defense last week. That's a humming machine on that side of the ball, and that's without talking for my money the best defense in all of football. So great debate there, Brian. You haven't had your NFL take, so I'll let you lead us off and get us going in another direction.
All right, top 4 teams in the NFC. Go.
Okay, I'll start.
1 through 4, rank.
1 through 4. Well, I just said San Francisco is my best team in football, so I got them 1. Pretty comfortably, Eagles 2. Pretty comfortably, Cowboys 3. 4. So Detroit's obviously 9-3. That's the team with the best record that warrants that spot. But do you believe in them like you do maybe a hot Rams team, a Seattle team that was right there with Dallas, Green Bay, who's just reeled off 2 of the better wins of the year, beating Detroit, beating Kansas City on Sunday Night Football. It's hard, man. It's hard. And Detroit's defense really scares me when they're not getting after the passer because they just seem to get lit up by I mean, even the Saints putting up points on them is a very scary sight. That said, I trust the coaching. I trust the coaching maybe more so than anywhere else. The only team, and Brian, credit to you, and you kind of got me drinking the Kool-Aid. The only team I think to put over them is Green Bay. It's because of the way they've looked these last 2 weeks, and Matt LaFleur is a very good offensive coach. And if Aaron Jones was healthy, I'd be more inclined. But I trust Detroit's just ability to get things done. If they were to match up later this year and in the playoffs, I'm gonna take Detroit. Although I think it'll be a very good game. But that's my fourth team. That's the order I think most people would have it. But it is what it is.
You agree, Christian?
I'm looking at one little last thing on one team. All right, man. So if I had to do right now who I'd pick, I think one, like Chase said, I did pick the 49ers. Two, I would go Eagles. But honestly, I'm taking the Lions and the Cowboys. I think, the Cowboys already came out and said if they don't go that deep into a playoff push, their head coach is more than likely gone, and Dan Quinn is going to take that head coaching role. So, I mean, that's coming out already. So that's showing just the ownership maybe isn't trusting what's going on as much, but we know who their owner is. But I just think the Lions, like Chase said, just their brand of football, they're not going to be able, once they do put up points like that, I mean, teams are going to expect them to try to run the ball, and that's what the Saints did last week. So I just think Detroit, yes, they maybe ain't the prettiest wins, but I mean, I just don't see a lot of teams when it does come to playoff football time, and definitely if it's in Detroit, but I know they're in a dome, but if it's in one of these cold environment games, that I don't see how you can't go with Detroit over a lot of these other teams just because of the brand of football they've been playing. I understand their defense might not live up to what the Cowboys' defense has been, but I mean, we just seen Seattle that hadn't been that explosive in a lot of games this year. Just DK Metcalf ate it up, and I think you could easily see St. Brown do that against the Cowboys if they play in a head-to-head matchup. But I mean, right now I feel comfortable saying 49ers, Eagles, Lions, Cowboys.
Okay. Yeah, I went 49ers, Eagles, Cowboys, Detroit. And my reasoning is I think Detroit, I'm going to spin a take off of this. I just wanted to put that out there. I do think Dallas is the better team, but I think it comes down to Dak Prescott's playing MVP level football right now. The defense is more well-rounded than Detroit's is, and Detroit has two giant Achilles heels, if you want to say it. And they're bad, and it so happens those two Achilles heels get exploited when you play two good teams. And first one is, and we've talked about it, they don't got a second pass rusher, man. It's Aiden Hutchinson or bust. And the thing is, when you only have one good pass rusher, your pass rushing lanes aren't very good. So your guys have to come off, and they're getting blocked, so they're streaking in there full speed, and all the quarterback has to do is take a step, and he's out the way.
They don't
need a
blitz.
second guy.
Yeah, they don't blitz either. Not to cut you off here, Brian, but when we played them, they were one of the lowest blitzing teams in the league. I think that's still holding true as we're past the Thanksgiving point in the season. And if you can't have guys win one-on-ones, you got to scheme things up. But they're reluctant to do that as well, so that worries you.
So they don't get a whole lot of pressure, and so that's a problem when you're facing good quarterbacks, but specifically mobile quarterbacks, okay? And if the Lions lose to Justin Fields and company this weekend, I'm going to take the Packers to win this division. I don't think it happens. I do not think the Lions lay a stinker against Chicago. I'm just saying it's possible. Their Achilles heel is they can't get after the quarterback. Justin Fields is dynamic. I've spoken in length about what I think about Justin Fields, and if he has a blow-up game on the ground, he hadn't really had a big game on the ground so far this year, I can see that happen against Detroit. However, the other Achilles heel Detroit has is Jared Goff. And they got on top of New Orleans early, and they were a bunch of scripted drives. Ben Johnson is a heck of an OC, and he's going to be a hot name in the head coaching circle come this offseason. And so my take is this. The Green Bay Packers can overtake the Detroit Lions next season, depending on how this offseason goes, because Jared Goff is a limiting factor of this team, and his crutch is Ben Johnson, his ability to scheme up open looks for his elite playmakers, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, the running back duo they have,
Laporta.
and the ancillary pieces they have. Sam Laporta, who's been phenomenal as a rookie. Jameson Williams, who's started to come on of late. Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, all these guys, right? Ben Johnson does a great job using them. And Goff is going to be put in a situation this year where he's going to have to make something happen. And I don't think he's got it in him. I do not think he's got the playmaking in his bones for them to win a playoff game. I don't. I think they're going to lose week 1, round 1, against whoever they play. And it's going to be bad. That's my take. And Jordan Love and company, depending on how the offseason goes, should be the favorite in NFC North next year.
They've certainly played better football as of late. I know Detroit's skimming through some of these wins. They look bad on Thanksgiving against Green Bay. But I really do buy into the culture that Dan Campbell has built. For lack of better words, just every guy in that locker room, they play hard. And playing hard will get you a long way. And the great coach that you mentioned, Johnson, he's going to be a head coach next season for someone else. This year, I think he can scheme up some things to win them a playoff game because they're not going to be facing week 1 in the playoffs, the San Francisco, Philadelphia, or Dallas. And the rest of the teams, I think they're good enough to beat. So,
Seattle or Green Bay, who would be another team potentially?
The Rams.
The Rams.
Minnesota.
So you feel good about them beating any of those teams?
Any of those teams. I'd say Minnesota and I'd favor Detroit. The Rams, I don't trust their defense. I think I'd favor Detroit. But Green Bay and Seattle, those could be toss-up matchups. The Seattle-Detroit game earlier this year was another classic. Green Bay obviously beat them on Thanksgiving. That's where my head sits. I know earlier in the year I was just higher on Detroit, and that's because the defense was playing better. They've taken major steps back these last few weeks, and that's why I put them in that. The tier, I know, Christian, you had them at 3, but to me, I think the Cowboys are way above them, and obviously Philly and San Francisco. I think if one of those 3 teams, if it's not a mixed match of those 3 teams in the NFC Championship, I'll be shocked. I think it's probably Philly, San Fran, but Dallas could sneak in, whereas I don't see Detroit able to. Obviously, you have them at 3. You believe in them more than Dallas, so I think that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I can talk real quick just on me. My big thing with Dallas is, Dak Prescott is hot, but they have no running game all year. And I think when it comes to that playoff time, I mean, it's going to be hard to stop CeeDee Lamb with them, but I'd rather put my money on a team that at least has a running game. I mean, we know they have something there in Detroit, and then they also have the passing game already. I understand Jared Goff, you can argue, is nowhere maybe close to Dak Prescott play level right now, but I think that's where your OC and all that comes in. Well, hey, we got the OC that can get Jared Goff the right look, and that's why I'd rather put my money in that than Dak Prescott. As easily as we've seen Jared Goff not play great, Dak Prescott will really quickly change on you in a heartbeat also. I just think, Tony Pollard was supposed to be this elite back for them and hasn't been it. And now you're telling me Detroit has not 1 but 2 guys that are really game changers. And I just look at that and y'all just went through all the Detroit weapons. I like that more than what Dallas has on the other side. There's CeeDee Lamb, and then Ferguson's kind of been good, but Brandon Cooks just now kind of started heating up the last couple of weeks. But other than that, it's just been moving the ball and around, and really a playmaker here or there. But Detroit, to me, has just been the real big game changer all season with getting more names on the scene.
Yeah, so just hearing you here, Christian, it sounds like come playoff football, you trust a great ground game. So with that said, can I offer you the best rushing team in yards per game in the NFL, partnered with a top 2 defense in the Baltimore Ravens? Are you that? I mean, just based on your formula,
you can't offer me that.
I mean, I would think maybe the Ravens are up there in your better top 5-ish landscape of the NFL. If you like a strong ground game, what better than Baltimore?
We'll go back to what Brian said, man. like Brian said, man, I think next year the Packers will not be favored. I think it goes back to Detroit, and I'd be really interested to see what the Vikings do this offseason at quarterback, and I think that determines a lot on their placement. I know Kirk Cousins more than likely is not their plan moving forward, so seeing what direction they go at quarterback, if that is the draft or if that is getting I don't know right now at this moment in time, hot names on the quarterback free agency list, but I think that's a big thing. I think other than that, their defense, if Brian Flores does stay there, he got another year with this DC, get more into his system, and then maybe he can actually go out and get his guys now and who he wants to be in his system. So I just think really this offseason is going to – I think this whole division, I think what happens with Justin Fields, Chicago can maybe very quickly change it around. They still have a lot of money to spend. So I just think – all four of these teams coming into next year, I think a lot can change with all these teams. I hope not, but Jared Goff could easily not be the quarterback of the Lions going into next season, and maybe wouldn't be surprised by that move, but I just don't know. All four of these teams could easily make some big moves and really change the whole landscape of this whole division.
Yeah.
It's an interesting division, man. I've kept my eye on it. Going into the year, I was very interested in Chicago and Justin Fields and seeing what they could do. Obviously, not up to, I know it wasn't extremely high expectations, but it was kind of ugly there for a little while, but they kind of turned things around a little bit. The Vikings have completely changed what we thought about them coming into this year. Kirk Cousins probably plays for another team next year, like Christian was saying. But I'm going to keep preaching it, man. I believe in Green Bay. I don't just believe in Jordan Love. I believe in LaFleur. I believe in the defense. I believe they're building something. And I just think it's funny, man, that Rodgers goes to the Jets with Zach Wilson, the next Aaron Rodgers, while the next Aaron Rodgers was sitting there the whole time, getting ready to have a better record than Aaron Rodgers. What you think? Huh?
Oh, man.
He ain't got a better record than Aaron Rodgers, man. Take 4 snaps, Brian. 4 snaps.
Oh, no, bro. He's the GM over there. You didn't know? He
is not the GM, man. He is not the GM.
He even brought in the coach, bro, Nathaniel Hackett.
Goodness.
Yeah,
well,
man.
guys,
Allen Lazard, what a contract, by the way.
Yeah. Was he a healthy scratch last week?
I think I don't know.
I don't even think he
played.
played.
Nah, he was a healthy scratch.
Yeah, that's what I thought I saw. Obviously, when you have chemistry with just one quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks of all time, you become a bit limited when other guys start to get the snaps. So that's just not something we all or any of us saw from the Jets this year. And really, for me, I didn't see the Packers doing what they have done, especially these last few weeks. So I credit to you, Brian, for believing in Jordan Love and believing in them. As we get past the 33-minute mark here, we've each had a take. Either you guys care to get one more out? I think I have one, a quick one we can end on, or if either you guys have one, we get another discussion in, we can go for that.
No, I do not. I had both of mine, pretty much.
I mean, you go with yours, Chase, and if we keep it short, I might can throw another one out that's a short one just to see where y'all kind of sit on it.
Yeah, well, mine's very short, and you can go on why you have your answer. It's a question, and you can go on why you have this answer, but I'm just going to say my answer, quick thought, and toss it to you guys. But preseason, I just want an updated Super Bowl prediction matchup. Preseason, I had KC versus San Francisco.
Goodness.
Yeah, I had KC versus San Francisco. As we are past Thanksgiving now, I still believe in San Francisco. I think they're the best team in the NFL. I think they will represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. Obviously, KC dropped Sunday night. They have looked worse and worse. But for my money in the playoffs, I still have a hard time betting against Patrick Mahomes, so I'm not sure if I'm ready to jump off that. The teams I think that could represent the AFC now that we're past Thanksgiving, Miami, Baltimore, Kansas City, Jacksonville. Should Buffalo sneak in? I don't think anyone wants to play them. I see a world where they can make a run. I think they're less likely though. I have to. God, I don't want to say this, but I'm gonna change my AFC representative, and I'm not changing it to Baltimore. Surprisingly enough, I think we're capable. I love our team, but I have to change it to my guy Brian's Dolphins, and I think it's going to be a Kansas City Miami Dolphins Super Bowl matchup. Now that we've gotten past Thanksgiving, I've seen what I've seen from every team in the NFL, and those two just look like the best two in football to me. So that's my updated in season NFL Super Bowl prediction. Well, what about you guys? Have you come off your preseason predictions? If so, who you have?
I don't even remember who I said in the preseason, man.
I
I have
want to
no
say
idea.
you said Super Bowl rematch. Christian, I can't remember yours. You might have said rematch as well, but I think both of y'all had Philly. I'm not sure about the AFC though.
I'm gonna go Philly and Miami, and the reason why I know San Francisco. I think if both teams are perfectly healthy, there is a very slight edge I give to San Francisco. The problem is, bro, and I don't know if this is a bad thing to say or whatnot, but I just don't think that they're going to stay healthy all the way through, bro. If they do, I think it's right here. I really do. So I think if I'm playing the betting game, either Debo, Christian McCaffrey, Brock Purdy, or Ayuk gets hurt, or Kittle. Like, all of those guys got a little bit of an injury history. I'm not sure Ayuk does. I know he's been banged up a couple of times and since he's been in the NFL, but not an injury history. Kittle and Debo and Christian McCaffrey are pillars to that offense, and they all have a lengthy injury history. Granted, there's 3 of them. You can make it work if you're missing one. You could probably even make it work if you're missing 2. But if you're missing all 3, the offense just goes down the gutter, dude. So I think if I'm going to pick one, I'm picking Philly, and then Miami. I just said they're the best team in the NFL for my money. It still feels wrong coming out of my mouth, to be honest with you, but I'm planting my flag. I think Miami is, and I definitely see several other teams. I think the AFC is much more contested than NFC. I think Baltimore, Jacksonville, Miami, and KC are the teams in the thick of it right now.
For the NFC side, man, it's really just 2 teams, and maybe I could see Detroit really sneak in just because, I kind of believe what Dan Campbell really does have going on, but I just think maybe this won't be the year. I'm leaning more towards the 49ers, Eagles, and the thing that hurts me with the Eagles, I know I did pick the 49ers, in this pod saying they're the best team, but the Eagles, I just think that playing that gauntlet they just played in them 3 games really did a lot to that team. And I think it just really made them at a point where I ain't going to say they were weak, but it was just a tough schedule for the last 3 weeks. So, I wouldn't be surprised either one. And the more and more I think about it, and definitely what Brian just said, it just takes one injury for this 49ers team to go and play like a whole different team. And with that being said, I'm kind of going with the Eagles now. I just think with injuries, no matter what, this team finds a way. I understand it looked bad last week or this Sunday, but I'm going to go with the Eagles on the NFC side, even though I did say the 49ers is the best team, but that's healthy, 100%. And I just know someone's going to go down on that team. I hate to say it, but I agree with Brian. But on the AFC side, man, there's a couple of teams that just I can't see Jacksonville defense hold up. The Chiefs it's been hit or miss all year. They really have to have that next superstar to be, I think, in that talk for me this year. And then you have the Dolphins and Dolphins and Ravens that are left. And I preached it on this pod a lot to Brian. He's not going to like it, but the schedule's been weak. It's not been great. And I just think when Tua has played some great defenses this year, it's kind of not looked like the Dolphins offense completely. He's thrown some interceptions. I understand not all of them are his fault, but I think it's this matchup that's coming up. I think the Ravens and Dolphins, whoever wins that matchup really, to me, come really to be the favorite in this division, not division, but this conference. Whoever wins that game, I think is who you're going to look at and say, this is the best team in this conference.
Could be the factor in hosting the AFC Championship or, home playoff game. That's how tight the AFC is, and that's a big advantage, playoff football, because a lot of the quarterbacks and team rosters, they're pretty even in the AFC. So if you have to coin flip a deciding factor, home field advantage is never a bad thing in the playoffs. So, Christian, are you taking one of my Ravens or Brian's Dolphins? That's surprising to hear you say, but Do you
Nah,
think
is
one of us
surprising.
is in the end of the year is happy and has a representative in the Super Bowl against the
Come
Eagles?
on, man.
man.
You got to pick one of our teams now.
Pick one
Put
now.
them up against each other.
I thought back and forth hard on this decision, and I ultimately did go with the Ravens. I just think
Oh,
their defense to me has been more impressive than what Miami's been. Miami, I understand you're saying we're top in this, top in that. It's just the schedule. I mean, the Ravens have done it against better teams and won bigger games. And I just think when it comes to playoff football, with just adding Lamar being able to run, Tua cannot do that. So that's another weapon you have to worry about. I understand the wide receivers definitely go in y'all's favor, but I just think with the defense they have, I think even when they play y'all, it's going to give y'all some trouble. I really do think that. I don't say they're going to take Tyreek Hill out of the game because it's just not possible, but I think that's really, to me, the game this year that's going to say how good the Dolphins are when y'all play them, and y'all see how that defense plays y'all versus, I mean, what we definitely just seen this past week. Just I'm ready to see what this great defense comes into. Play Miami and what they do, but I just think by this point, I think just Baltimore has more, to me at least at this point, to offer than the Miami team, just because their defense has been clicking all year. Y'all just got started. So as quickly as y'all got started, you can very quickly not be started, and you just lost your best pass rusher too. And I mean, Baltimore's been doing it with not great pass rushers, you can argue, and they're still getting to the quarterback, getting the pressures. I like their linebacker room more. Geno Stone has been playing out of his mind all year, and y'all just now got Jalen Ramsey and X. You can say what you want, Brian. I know that's your guy, but I can't buy into that either.
we've come a long way. My Ravens have since our preseason prediction pod, where believe it or not, Christian had us finishing last in the AFC North. I can't believe. Maybe it's the landscape of the AFC as a general. I think that's more where Christian's at. You get the NFC side, it's clear that Philly and San Fran are the two teams, whereas the AFC, no team. I was ready to come onto this pod and say there's no dominant team. No dominant team in the NFL, and you can really say that in the AFC, where there's four really, really good teams. Each have their flaws. Each can be beaten in the playoffs, especially when it just takes one quarterback to outplay the other in playoff football and one defense to show up and have a good Sunday. I think it's a toss-up, to say the least. And it's going to be an exciting Super Bowl. I'm looking forward to playoff football already, but we still have a little way before we get there. So I just wanted to get your guys' thoughts as we're past the Thanksgiving mark, as I've preached, and we know more about each football team. So with that said, that's maybe a good way to end it. Christian, I don't know if you still have a take. Maybe we can save it for next time.
Save it for next time, man.
Yeah,
we'll end it right there.
I love it. That is a great way to end it. Just past the 43-minute mark here, guys. As we've said, we've broken up these takes segments from that was attached to our preview pods and preview episodes for the NFL weeks. Just because it feels a great way to get our discussions out and our thoughts on each team, each player, and extend that, because this is the juicy part of the pods. This is what we like debating about and talking amongst each other with off pod more than anything. So I love to get these episodes extended and thoughts of each of ours out for our listeners. To our listeners, thank you again for tuning in. Continue, like, share, subscribe, rate, review the podcast itself, and tell a friend, tell an enemy, do all the good things to help us grow as a community. With that said, give us a follow on Twitter. Just stay tuned in for our next time together. I know Brian will be out of town Wednesday for some work stuff, so it may just be me and Christian running things for the next week or so. But that said, we're going to get the pods on schedule for you guys to tune into, and just thank you as always for listening. Until then, guys, we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.
Peace.
Peace. Don't let me down, Lamar.
God.